Hey guys, and how's it going? We're back here today with another video on the Oliato Gaming YouTube channel. Today we are going to dip our toes into the saving the saves kind of videos that you find on YouTube, but we're going to go deep dive and we're going to go through kind of the thought process and things that we can sort of improve on teams and stuff like that. This was prompted by a comment in one of our older videos when they were asking to do a video about the tactics and team instructions and what they all mean. So we're going to do a separate video for that. But for this one, I just thought we'll look into someone's save, an actual save I've not looked at before. I've only loaded this up very briefly just to make sure it loads up onto my FM, and that is it. So what you can see today is how I approach this certain save, and then we'll do a separate video where we'll go through each individual team instruction and work out, when to, use certain directions or instructions and when not to, basically. So we are going to load up the save here. And this is Zebasandru, I think that's how you say it correctly. He kindly sent the save over earlier this afternoon. And first thing is, notice we are in the second division of Holland. And we are currently seventh in the league. So not too bad. 14 games played. We're kind of hovering around the playoff places. Obviously, the second team of Ajax can't get promoted, so in effect, you are six. So first look, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Telstar is a team I did very well with. One of my older FM saves, so it's always good to see that there. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a quick look at the finances here. Now, as you can see, there's no money left and we are slightly over wage budget. So we have to bear that in mind when we look at the teams. Now, one of the first things, one of the comments the lad made was um, staff and how you should listen to them and if they're, what they say is particularly accurate or should you just ignore it. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of have a look at your staff, and as you can see, they are very average for this league. Very average for this league. The one thing I've noticed is that you've got space for another scout here, so definitely get another scout in. And while we're talking about scouting, are you handling your recruitments, scout priorities? In fact, if we go to staff, responsibilities, down to scouting, see, now you've got your director of football assigning the scouts, which I personally never find very effective on Football Manager. So the first thing I would do here is take control. And then obviously you need to confirm that. Now, we'll come back to this because we need to see what the team is, what they're doing, what the strengths and what the weaknesses are, basically. But that's my first tip right off the bat there. And in fact, you don't have many staff. So what you do is go to Club Vision. You're doing a great job here, so kudos on that. The first thing I would do is, it's always worth asking that, and it looks like you probably have asked for your scouts to be increased, but you can never have enough good coaches, particularly as you can see on the staff overview screen. Particularly your attacking coaching here is not very good. Even your defensive isn't great. Your fitness is fantastic. But obviously, if you're looking to add another coach, you would definitely look at, as you can see here, someone who's good at attacking coaching and who can at least do the mental, if not the technical side, depending on how many coaches you've got. You haven't got many, so you might need someone that can kind of do both, really, on that front. So, as I've noticed here on the Club Vision, you're doing a great job at the moment. So, they are looking to be an established team, so I'm guessing they just don't want to be relegated, right? Be competitive. Okay, well, you can't get relegated, so which basically means be competitive is always just not finish bottom, really, if you can. So you are doing a fantastic job. Now, assistant manager. What is he like? a shot. Okay, right. So did you recruit this guy yourself, or was he already at the club? He was already at the club, but actually, you know what? That is very good. That is very good. So particularly for this level, second tier in Holland, I would say he is someone you definitely can listen to. Obviously, on the coaching ground, he's not particularly great. However, all your play reports and things like that generally come from him. You can change who gives you your technical and advice and everything like that, but it's defaulted to your system manager. And I always personally like to have him with these sort of strengths here. So he is brilliant, I would say. For this level, he is top star. He's a 5-star rated system manager, I would say, for this level of team. So what we can do is go into Squad Planner and let's get the assistant report. So there is quite a lot of negatives here, things like this. Now, obviously, as we've said, he is very good. So a lot of this stuff you can take as being pretty accurate. So lots of negatives there, but some strengths here. So the fact you're 7th, I would say, is, you know, and obviously the board are very happy with what you're doing. You are overachieving already. So how much I can improve on this is going to be very debatable. So as we've just quickly shown there, let's do a comparison for the league. Now I've shown this in the previous video, but this basically breaks down individual groups of attributes and compares it to the rest of the league. So as you can see, general, this gives you just as we say, a general outline. Your average wage is pretty low. You know, none of this I'd take particularly too much prudence on. However, your average height's quite low. So the first thing is, I'd say by default you're probably wanting to play a low short passing game, but we'll break down and have a look, because this can get skewed by having a couple of very poor squad players, ones that don't actually make the matchday squad, but because they're in your first team squad, they'll bring your average down. So we won't place too much importance on it, but it's something to put a pin in, I would say. Obviously, you can break this down by individual groups of, you know, goalkeepers, defenders, midfield, strikers, but this isn't a particularly important screen. This, however, is a bit more. So you've got good decision making, which is good to see. Now, a lot of the rest is pretty poor. Your passing's poor, your first touch is poor, your strength, work rate, your teamwork. Right, okay. So this is pretty much bottom of the barrel in terms of your league. But they have got good decisions. Goalkeepers, good agility. Right, okay. Agility is a very important attribute in goalkeepers and football managers, so that is good to see. Your goalkeepers are very good, actually. They can't kick the ball for toffee, but again, this is your average of your goalkeepers. So if you've got a couple of young goalkeepers in your squad, this will bring it down quite a bit. Right, okay. So this, obviously, with the height and your jumping reach, indicates that instantly on your tactics, you want to stop the opposition crossing the ball into the box. You want to force them inside, and you want to, if you've got the pace in your defenders, which you do, is highline. Highlight is very overpowered in Football Manager, but this actually leads into that as well. Your heading's not great. Your positioning is a bit concerning, because obviously highline you do need to have good positioning, because everyone needs to be, you know, level with each other. But straight away off the bat, I'm going to say highline. But yeah, that's your defence. Midfield, ooh, right, okay, well that's where the decision making comes in, but you know, they can't run around for toffee, they can't pass the ball. So yeah, it's a bit of a conflict here, because you haven't got the height in your team, you are going to have a high line, so you don't necessarily need to play long balls to get the ball to the final third, but your passing is a concern. Your attack, lowest finishing in the league, which isn't great, low jumping reach. So because of that, similar to your defensive line, you want to basically work the ball into the box, shorter passing. You don't want to be particularly attacking on the wings. Now, you can sort of get your players to the byline and then cross in low and cross from the byline rather than sending it in early or anything like that. But ideally, you want to kind of eventually funnel the ball into the final third, into the middle area, so you can make use of the other attributes such as your pace and your acceleration. So with that, I would be tempted to pass the ball into space because your dribbling is not particularly great. Your strength by far is your pace, and also with the acceleration, and your anticipation is not too bad. So they're going to anticipate the ball going into the space, usually over the top of the defenders. They can start their run and time the run, so then they get onto the end of the ball ahead of the defenders, basically. So, physical, good agility. Okay, so I'm thinking similar to playing a short passing game, agility and dribbling, which your dribbling is not too bad, is you probably want the players to run with the ball. Everything else on here, like I said, jumping reach, the stamina is a concern. Obviously, you've got high line, so you're condensing the pitch, but pressing is going to be potentially an issue there because you're not be able to keep it up for the duration of the match with your poor stamina. So decisions we've looked on, positioning is a bit strange. Vision, now when you're passing the ball into space, you do need a bit of vision, so you need to increase that a little bit, I would say. Your flare's pretty low, not much composure and stuff like that. Technically, good tackling. Crossing's not too bad, but even so, as you can see, it's one of your better stats. Groups of attributes, sorry, not stats. It's still pretty low in comparison to the rest of the league. And your finishing is pretty poor. So when you've got things like finishing low and long shots is pretty low, working the ball into the box is definitely something you want in there. If you have shoot on sight, is if obviously these two are much higher, and you haven't got the players to get the ball into space or to work the ball into the box where you're passing. Now, obviously, that is a bit of a concern as well. So I'm thinking, seeing this straight away, I'm not making 100% nailed on. This is what you need to do. But I would say you want to be short passing, high line, pass the ball into space, and also be quite disciplined because creatively you're not particularly great in any areas here. So that would make that kind of not force the players, but instruct the players to make sure that they're not doing things they're not capable of. I'm hoping you've got one good creative player in the team that can be your playmaker, and to open up the opposition defence and things like that. Now, as we've seen, there isn't any room in the transfer budget or wage budget, so you have to kind of make do with what you got. I haven't even seen, I imagine it is outside the transfer window anyway, so you won't be able to make any purchases at this moment if you could. So with that in mind, you get a general idea of your team and what the strengths and weaknesses are before you even go to the tactics screen, just so you know kind of what you're working with. And it gives you an idea of, because I know the comment was about the player roles and which ones you should use. It gives you an idea of what your team's good at, and particularly if you've got one player that is fairly creative, then you definitely want to mark him as a playmaker role. So that when the team is disciplined, they make sure they're very strict, they're very disciplined with the ball, but they obviously eventually will work it to your more creative player, and he can be the one that makes the risky passes and tries to break open the defense with defense splitting ball, because he's the one who's got the highest chance of being successful with it. Whereas if everyone's trying it and they haven't got very good vision, they haven't got very good passing, things like that, then you're just going to concede the ball and give it away. Obviously, with things like this, if you do have transfer and wage budget available and things like that, it gives you an idea of what your team really needs. Which, one of the things I would say is you probably want a centre defender who is really good in the air, so it counters any aerial threat from the opposition team. Obviously, you're going to be defending set pieces. You are going to be defending corners, so it gives you a good idea of what you might need to add to the team and things like that. And also means that you don't end up buying a player that does everything that you already have in the team as well. So you kind of like, you don't want to buy another short player who's got a lot of pace, who maybe can't pass, who can't finish. You know, if you're looking for a striker, you probably want someone who can finish, a poacher type. And he doesn't necessarily have to have much pace because you've already have that. But you haven't got an aerial threat up front either. So it's like, okay, well, if you're looking for, a striker, that is maybe something to consider. But anyway, we've gone on to that long enough now. We're going to go on to your squad and have a look here. So, obviously, the stars are relevant to your team and your division. I would say, however, you've got a nice big squad here with lots of good players for not too much wage. You've got a couple loans, which is really important at this level. Have you got him on a free loan? Fantastic. So, is Feyenoord your senior affiliates? Okay, well, they're in the Eredivisie, so that's the other important thing is to make use of the loans. I imagine you already have, but in case you don't know what one of the things you can do, let me just check. Are we? Yeah. So the transfer window's shut. So what I always do at the start of every season, before you even start trying to spend your money, is if you go to the top division, obviously you're in the second division here, you right click, get team report, and go down. Repeat for everyone. Obviously, you've got to click on your scout. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to assign them. And just get them to give you a team report. And in the coming days, what will happen is in your scouting area here, is they'll be added here any loan players from those clubs that they've done a team report on, to say, okay, these players would join you, and generally speaking, when they appear in here from that team report, they will go to you for no wage. As long as you give them first team football, the club is very happy to cover their wages and stuff like that. So obviously in a team like this, where you are overachieving, is something important to make use of. Now, let's just see what your wage budget is in terms of the rest of the league. So as you can see, now this gets skewed because these are basically the reserve teams for Ajax, PSV, and AZ, Alkmaar, and Utrecht as well. I think is that the second team? I think it might be. So anyway, so these get a bit skewed anyway because these include some first team players. And so I noticed Hakim Ziyech, I think, was on there, where obviously he's going to be playing between the two teams and stuff like that. But anyway, as you can see, you are pretty much near the bottom here. Now, this is generally what I base on how well you should be doing with your team. Is, how much you're spending on your wage budget compared to the rest of the team. Now, as you can see, up to about here, there isn't too much of a gap. Well, once you get above then you start getting a bit, these teams are like double your wage budget and things like that. So that's why it's imperative to make the most of the loans. But as I can see here, you already seem to be doing that. So let's go on to your tactics. So slightly asymmetric, interesting. Okay, we like to see this. It's 4-4-2 or 4-2-4. Depends how you want to interpret it. Okay, interesting. You got more direct passing. Very direct. Okay, much higher. You're not playing out defense, which makes sense because you haven't got particularly creative players. You have got be more disciplined, which is good to see. Play for set pieces is interesting. Now, I haven't looked at your set pieces if you've got them correct set up, but by default, as you can see, your team isn't particularly tall in the area, or tall in general. So let's just have a look on your set pieces. So it doesn't look like you've set anything up here, I believe. So what I would be doing, just going to click through there. Right, okay. So what I would be looking at is on your attacking is you want to probably be playing it short, working the ball. Now, obviously, you're not particularly creative, so there isn't really, I don't believe, a set piece that's going to be particularly effective for you. What you can do is see, so aerial threat. So as you can see, not particularly great in the air there. Let's have a look at this guy. Again, jumping, not particularly great. Now this guy's not too bad actually. Let's see, he's okay. He's average height, but he's not too bad. The other thing is, what's your corner taker? So yeah, again 10. So I've not looked at your stats of how you scored your goals, but play for set pieces, I'm not sure is particularly efficient or effective. Now, the other thing you can do is look at your squad and see if you can add a couple of aerial threats to that, or if you've got someone with good long shots, is basically set up a tactic where you work the ball to the edge of the box and they have a shot on goal. But other than that, I'm not too sure about that one personally. But yeah, I would be maybe tempted to go pass into space here. Yeah, I'd probably be tempted. Let's have a look at your front line here. So, okay, he's quite tall, poacher. He's got good anticipation on off the ball, acceleration. So, you know, like I said, passing to space, I think would be quite effective there. Because he's got the anticipation to anticipate the ball. It's not just about your acceleration. And again, this guy, he's pretty good. You got him as a pressing forward here. So let's have a look here. Pressing forward. Let's go and have a look. So, yeah, but he hasn't got the great stamina. He hasn't got particularly great work rate. So I'm not sure if that's the best use of his skill set there. Obviously, he's very quick, and he has got good dribbling. So what I would probably do on him is, if you want him to be a pressing forward, is definitely get dribble more on. Definitely want to get dribble more on that one there. So let's have a look at this guy. So he is inside forward on attack, which isn't too bad. He has got good finishing. He hasn't got the great dribbling. But he is right-footed on the right-hand side. Ideally, you probably want someone left-footed doing that role. However, you can't argue with that. So I would potentially stick with that. He is fairly tall. He hasn't got the greatest jumping reach, but obviously, because he's playing on the wing, that's not actually too bad of a setup. How many headers is he winning? Because I have noticed something else, and I'm going to come to it very shortly. Let's go for... actually, the stats... Right, so you notice here his heading win ratio is 12%, which is shockingly low. Shockingly low. So One thing I have noticed is on your goalkeeper, you've got take long kicks, and you haven't specified where. So obviously, if he's generally coming up against people that are better in the air than him, so I'd be a bit concerned about that. So that's something I'd potentially look at changing. Let's have a look at the left-hand side here. So he is right-footed on the left side, so he is cutting in. Obviously, we talked about the crossing isn't particularly important in this attacking setup because you haven't really got much aerial threat. So that's good to see that you have got your wingers on the outside attacking inwards. I'm not thinking he's particularly great here. He has got a player trait where he cuts in as well, which is good to see. He is doing nearly 4 dribbles a game, which is good to see. Let's see what his so head-win ratio 33%. So again, not particularly great. Not particularly great. If you look at your forward players as well, head-win percentage 16%. And this chap I think will probably be a bit better, 46. So if you are committed to doing the quick, because I understand thinking about this is you counter quickly, your team is very much get the ball forward quickly, is I would either look to distribute over opposition defence or maybe set him as a target forward. So you could basically change his role to a target forward here. Now he does dribble, rest and hold the ball as default instructions, which is a bit counterintuitive here, but obviously it would kind of make him distribute the ball to him. You can, I believe, actually no, you couldn't. I thought there was an instruction where you can distribute it to a certain player. So what I would say is you may go force play down the middle because you have got your inverted wingers on the outside. They are looking to come inside anyway. Is that if you got focus play through the middle, is your goalkeeper is generally going to be taking those long kicks there, rather than distributing to the flanks here, where obviously, as you can see on those head-win percentages, they're not particularly great. Now you have got a deep line playmaker here, which we kind of touched on earlier when we looked at the general overview of the team. He is not too bad. 11 passing is maybe a little bit low. He's got 4 assists and 12. He's not doing a bad job there. There might be some improvement on there. He has got good work rates, which on a deep line playmaker you don't really make full use of. He's got good tackling. As you can see, offensively he's not particularly great. So I would probably just say I'd have him on defend maybe. Something like that. Maybe even drop him into here. I do like to make use of these really high stats or attributes because they're quite rare at this level, so it's a good way to make the most of that. He's got good marking. You see his marking's better than his passing. His tackling's better than his pass. So really, with this, you probably want him as a ball winner. As you can see here, there are a couple 8s and a couple of 9s, but you're making use of his teamwork, his work rate. These are only guidelines, so it's not essential. But I think ideally is try and get a better playmaker in that role. Let's see, what's his pass percentage? 84%. That's not too bad for a playmaker. That's not too bad. It shows that he's making risky passes, but he's getting a few assists and things like that. Here, this guy. Yeah, he's pretty slow and things like that as well. he doesn't really offer too much going forward, and I think you've got him on a defend yet, so he's not looking to get beyond the halfway line really anyway. Now you've got a wing back on attack here with an inside forward here on attack as well. So the one thing to see is how this plays out in game. He isn't particularly great. Now you see, this is the problem here, I think, with this guy, is you look at that and go, okay, he's got great crossing. However, you're not really wanting to cross the ball into the box because of the profile of your attackers. Now, if you look at the other attributes here, he hasn't got great technique, he hasn't got great passing, he hasn't got great first touch, he hasn't got great dribbling, he's not particularly quick, he hasn't got great vision. So actually sending him that far forward, I'm not too sure really gives you too much in the offensive areas. He has got 1 assist and 6. It's 77% passing. Now, obviously, your instructions will sort of dictate that, which, you know, that's not too bad, you know, considering instructions and things like that. Crosses completed 2 out, so as you can see, he's got 5% cross completion, which obviously is pretty horrendous. So I would reconsider who you have at this position or change his role. Now, personally, because you've got no attacking aerial threats, I would just have him on a fullback, maybe even a defend. If you are committed to using this guy though on this role, I would definitely use the overlap, because basically what this will instruct is, you know, he's going to attack from here inwards, and it will open up a space here because this should, but basically the guy who's marking him will follow him into this area, and it will open space up for this guy. Now, if I'm using this guy as well, as you can see, he's got good crossing, but getting to the byline isn't really his strength because he hasn't got great agility, speed, he hasn't got great dribbling and everything like that. So I would say you want to cross it from deep rather than cross from the byline. So you've got to look at the player role. So I would be maybe a fullback on support, or probably defend and go cross from deep. So basically what that means is that he will cross the ball from sort of this area, maybe even this area, rather than here, which is obviously the byline, which is what he's on at the moment. Now, the byline is better for crossing if you've got shorter players and you know, you haven't got the aerial threat in the box, whereas if you have got the aerial threat in the box, crossing from deep is probably the better option. Now, on your final third, you've got mixed crosses. Now, as you can see with the head-wind ratio, isn't particularly great. So I would be looking at lower whipped, because the whip crosses needs a bit more skill and technical proficiency, and you haven't really got that in this team. I would probably just go low, so it doesn't send the ball up high where the opposition defenders generally are winning the ball in the air, as you can see from the head winning statistics weren't particularly great. Whereas obviously you put it low, it means the height advantage the defenders have doesn't count for anything because you're putting the ball sort of here or on the deck, and it means that the shorter players are a bit more evenly matched in terms of getting to the ball and potentially scoring a goal from it. So he does seem a very good defender. I would think really you want him as a defensive fullback, or even play in the, you know, in the centre at the back, because he is a centre defender as his best role. He is okay on the ball, not amazing, but he's not too bad. He is decent in the air. So on your set pieces, because it's quite unusual for your fullback to be one of your taller players, I would actually, is he taking your set pieces? He is. Now, because he's only got 10 corners, I would be tempted to change that to someone else who isn't particularly tall. This guy we've seen is okay. Now, Brandon Hooven. So this guy is quite short, and he hasn't got great jumping reach, and he is an attacking player. So if you send him back to be one of the defensive players on the corners, he isn't going to be particularly good for you because he hasn't really got the defensive capabilities. What I would say is you want him to be taking your set pieces, and then that frees up this guy to be one of the main aerial threats. As you can see, he's got 13 jumping reach. He's 186 centimeters high. Um, aggression is something I like to see, particularly for aerial duels, but it's not the end of the world. But he's got okay heading, but compared to the rest of your team, this guy is by far your best aerial threat. So having him take the corners is basically depriving you of having one of your better headers in the box. So that would be something I would look to change. If we look at your centre backs here, you got ball winning midfielder in there. He's good on the ball. He's got a good tackling. Not too bad. Not too bad. We did look at you. You have got the higher line with a mid block. That's actually very close to what I would suggest because you've got short defenders. You have got chop inside and stop crosses, which is again what we touched upon. Drop off more is something I would play around with, depending. Obviously, you have to see how the games play out sometimes. You are having a high line. You have got good pacey defenders, but the positioning isn't particularly great across the board. So what that means is that you might still find yourself dropping back and conceding the space. But that is something I would certainly play around with, and you may have already done so. Obviously, you're overachieving, so there isn't too much to improve on here, really. Stay on feet. Yeah, your aggression isn't particularly great, so that's good. And also, it means that you prevent less free kicks and set pieces being conceded, which obviously means the opposition can send the ball into the box, and then you've got the mismatch in the height and the aerial ability, basically. Trigger press, yep, okay, that's fine. So, the long kicks is something I would sort of play around with, maybe distribute over your opposition defence. But obviously, I would, this is what's causing you problems, is where they're distributing it to the flanks. You could maybe try it to the playmaker. So then, obviously he picks the ball up and then he can make that incisive pass. Because I did notice when I plucked around earlier, if you notice, he's got 41% pass completion. Now, that sounds horrendous for a goalkeeper, but obviously the way you play is he basically kicks the ball away as quickly as he can. He doesn't think about it; he just sends it. So his kicking's 14, which is good. His vision's only 8. His decisions is 14, so he's not actually too bad. I think the problem here is very much the people receiving it aren't particularly great at aerial duels, rather than your goalkeeper being, poor with passing the ball out and things like that. Let's have a look at your other centre back. So again, he's good acceleration. Now, what I would say is he's got very good anticipation. He's got good decisions. He's got good positioning. Now, obviously, you're having a high line, so I would, and as the game suggests here, is have him on the cover. So if you're finding the drop-off instruction isn't working very well, is maybe look at having him on the cover role. So basically what he'll do is he will be almost like a sweeper and he'll sweep behind. Because he's got good anticipation, he can read the game. So if he sees an attacking threat from the opposition, he can position himself accordingly. Because you have a high line that he might need to drop in behind. He's got a good positioning, which I like to see. He looks a good defender. Now I've noticed his average rating isn't particularly great. He's winning his tackles. Now I'm going to suggest it's probably the aerial that's really hammering. Yeah, 47%. So in FM, I find that you can have players that get really penalised for the average rating because of their head win ratio. So what I would be tempted to do is have this guy on a stopper and have this guy on a cover. So this guy is your big brute. He's the one who's going to handle the tall opposition players. You know, aerial threat target man. He's the one who's going to be marking them, and this guy is going to be the one that kind of sits behind sweeps. So if the opposition send a long ball and the attacker is dueling with this guy here, he'll go and jump up for the ball and try and win it. And this guy, if he thinks, okay, he might lose the ball, he will kind of tuck in behind and sweep up behind. Now, the other thing you can do is, we've looked at this guy, is he is actually very good in the air as well. So I would be almost tempted to try him as a centre-back and see what other options you have at wing-back. Now, you've got this guy here. Capable fullback, not particularly great, but I would have him on sort of a defensive role. So I'd maybe go like this. And move him inside. If you're finding that this guy is just not really performing, or he's not winning the aerial duels, he is quite tall. Jumping reach isn't particularly great. His aggression's not particularly great, but obviously, as you can see, he's just not winning enough headers, and that's a big concern. Now, you've done everything tactically that you can do, but sometimes, you know, players just aren't quite up to the job. So I would potentially look to do this. Now, he's left-footed. This is very unusual thing in Football Manager, but you've got two left-footed centre-backs. So in this case, just have a look. He's got no side preference and prefers to be in the left of a two-man. So maybe look to do something like this. Make him the stopper and make this guy the ball-winning defender playing. So, you know, he can deal with the aerial threats. So what you'll find is they'll probably be able to defend aerial attacks and things like that much better, because, as you can see, 13 jumping reach, 186, and this guy's got 14 jumping reach at 185. He has played left back, so his stats might be skewed, but as you see, he's winning 87% of his headers. Now, he is probably up against fullbacks and things like that. But that would also mean, you know, say to me that you've seen the other players haven't got anywhere near that high percentage of winning the headers. So him taking the corners again is a massive waste. I get him in the box, get him in the mixer. Maybe just even send it front post, have him attack the front post, and have the other players try and pick up the scraps and things like that. But that is one area that I'd maybe kind of look to do. Or you could obviously do a free in the back if you want to. Let's see how your other fullback is. Yep, he's very average, very solid. He's not pulling up any trees on his average rating, but he's not doing too bad. Again, if you go onto the stats, head winning, yeah, not particularly great for a fullback. He is making good passing. He is winning most of his tackles though. So yeah, obviously aerially is the big concern here. So yeah, let's just have a look here. So attacking players. So what we should do is best position here. Oh, so let's have a look at your offensive players that we haven't had a look at here. I see now this guy is much more suited to the pressing forward role. He hasn't done very well though for you, I've noticed. Perry Pournier doesn't see, determination is a big factor in a pressing forward, you see. So I think that's the big letdown here for him, is why he looks on the face of it as someone who would be good in that role. it's probably not best suited for him. Now, you could potentially look to play him as an inverted winger. He's not going to show me your things here. He's got good aggression. He's not too bad, but yeah, maybe not quite what you're looking for here. He could be someone you can move on to free up some transfer budget. This guy here, again, not particular. You can't read the play. This guy's not providing you anything different than what you've already got on your team. So again, it'd be someone I'll look to probably move on and things like that. You got a couple more striking options, but they're already on the pitch. So, oh, what's this guy like? Okay. See, he's come on twice as a sub, and he's done really well for you. I think personally, this guy should be playing on the left-hand side for you. Very much so. But yeah, Bradley Hoover. Okay, so you got another winger here. Is he on any money? He is not. It's good to see. Yeah. Squad depth. He's done all right though. He's done okay, but not too bad. So one thing I would say is, because of the way you're playing with your tactics, and I don't disagree with a lot of these things, I haven't really changed anything here, is the transition from the goalkeeper to the front line. I don't think this guy is really you're pressing forward. Now, he is quite creative, and he's got good acceleration, things like that. So something like a false nine would be actually pretty good. I was thinking maybe the problem with deep line forward is it's kind of holding the ball up and stuff like that. I might be tempted to actually play him in the pocket here. You know, getting passing out. You see, he's got the good. He hasn't got the great vision though. That's the only thing. Is he's not quite your attacking playmaker here. Which is a shame. But he is. I'm not sure. Maybe that is the best way for him. I think what you could do potentially is get someone up with this guy, but as a target man. 190 plus, hold the ball up. So basically, when you're doing a long, quick distribution, he's going to win all the headers and stuff like that. So you would have, you'd probably actually have it like this, like a target forward and support, and then you'd probably have him as potentially a poacher, maybe a deep line forward attack, something like that. So he's going to basically go up for the headers, occupy the tall centre backs, and you're going to, hopefully get the flick-ons and things like that. The other way is to look how you're going to get the ball forward to your front line. Now, as we've already covered, you're not particularly tall. You are playing a short passing game. So I would look at potentially getting fullbacks who are maybe a bit better on the ball. We haven't looked at a couple of the others here. Let's have a look at him. So fullbacks, you want good first touch, which this guy hasn't got. You want good passing. You want good composure. He is very good defensively, this guy. I've noticed good positioning, good tackling, good aggression. Again, just not the greatest jumping reach. Let's have a look at those PK. Okay, first touch is not too bad. Passing's not too bad. Composure's pretty decent. Now he is right-footed. So yeah, so with your current setup, how's this Trevor guy? First touch, passing, composure. Actually, not too bad. So what I would say to counter the fact that you're not winning the ball aerially up here at the top. Now, you have to watch the game because obviously this is going purely off the stats. what can actually be happening, and again, let's not forget, he is overachieving here, is that you don't win the first ball, but you are picking up the second ball. So it might be prudent to look at something like this. So when he's going for the ball, the two centre halves, the centre halves are winning the ball. But obviously, they can only head it so far, so they're probably heading it into around this area. So if you've got someone lurking around here that can pick the ball up, you can basically win the second ball and launch your attack that way. But it's something you need to watch in game to see how things are generally playing out. But the statistics are suggesting that you are sending the ball forward very quickly, and most of the time you are not winning the ball in the air. But to fit in with the whole get the ball forward quickly and everything like that, is you could potentially look to distribute to either your playmaker or your fullbacks. But obviously, if you do the fullbacks, you've got to take short kicks and stuff like that. But I do like your goalkeeper; he's very good. So I think it's further forward and things like that. Now you have got 4 attacking. In fact, you had 5, didn't you? Because you got the wing back and attack. So you got 5 attacking duties on your team here. So I would potentially look to maybe put support role on here. Just because your team is not particularly great attributes wise compared to the rest of the teams in the league. So and because you can't counter press very well because you haven't got the particularly great work rate on stamina on your forward line, is I would say you probably want to have a couple of supports on there and stuff like that. However, this does kind of marry up with your direct and the high tempo and stuff like that. Yes, okay. So the other thing to do as well is when you're playing opposition teams is obviously bearing in mind who you've got. Have a look at the team. As you can see, this guy hasn't got great jumping reach. So aerially, you should be doing much better than these. So despite what we've just said, it's always important to look at what you're up against. Now you see this guy's got really good acceleration. He hasn't got any other particularly great attributes. His dribbling's okay, but that's about it. So if they've got direct and pass the ball into space, he is going to do very well against your back line because he's better. He's got the better pace. He's utilising his strengths. So for this next game, I would be tempted to go. When it comes to the match day, there'll be a next match only. And what I'd probably do is actually maybe drop your line a little bit and maybe take that off. Because, as you can see, on the opposition, he's not great in the air. And particularly if you look at his whole attacking setup and things like that, his aerial ability is certainly not his strength. So if you encourage them to cross the ball, and to try and nullify all other ways of them attacking, they're not going to do very well with this chap up top. As you can see, he's better on the deck. He's better with the ball into feet and things like that. Same with this guy here. Obviously, he is just going to want to run into space. His dribbling's not great. So if you got a high line, then obviously this is a good way to counter it. Is just send the ball over the top, and basically attack for you that way. So what I would say is change your back line, but also you just send him onto his left foot. Just send him inside, because as you can see, he isn't particularly great passing. He hasn't particularly great finishing. His crossing's not brilliant either, but it'll just counter the pace he's got. Again, this guy has got really good dribbling. But as you can see, his bravery is really poor. So I would say you want to go tackle harder. And again, send him on his left foot. Send him on his weaker foot. you know, as you can see, preferred right. So if you put him on his leaker foot, but obviously you can see he runs with the ball often, and he's got really good dribbling here. So again, aerially not very good, on the deck very good. So it gives you an idea of kind of the setup of the other team. Is they're not too dissimilar to you. They want to play a short passing game. They don't want the ball in the box in the air really. And then obviously this guy is very much going to be the playmaker. As you can see here, he's got most assists, which is what this icon here. That's most red cards. And then there is another ball icon, which is for top scorer. But obviously their top scorer is not playing in the next game. And then also have a look at the back line. So he hasn't got good anticipation, this guy. He hasn't got particularly good acceleration. This guy, again, not particularly great. He is very good with the ball. So they are very much play the ball out and everything like that. So I would say, to counter their acceleration, you've got a pace advantage over these guys. So definitely play the ball into space. As you can see, he's 189. Okay, so he's not particularly great in the air. This guy is. So as you can see, he's on the left-hand side. So he's going to be marking your right-hand side striker. So he's going to be marking him, right? So this guy's got the pace advantage over him, but you don't want the ball in the box to him because the other guy's like 15 jumping reach and this guy's got 5. And this guy's going to be marked by, get it right, so he's being marked by the left-hand side fullback, he's centre-back. He's going to be marked by the right-hand side centre-back, okay? So if you look here, you know, he's good with the ball, but he isn't particularly pacey. So maybe look to utilise and work out the strengths and weaknesses with those two to get an advantage there. And then obviously their fullbacks, he's quite pacey, and this guy as well. He, as you can see, he's a right back, right-footed, playing on the right-hand side. So he's not playing in his ideal position. He hasn't got good anticipation. His dribbling's pretty poor. So I would say you might want to exploit the right-hand side. As you can see, yeah. So then if you go into your tactics for the next match, is maybe look to, again, see how he marries up against the left back and work out your strengths and weaknesses and then toggle your tactics accordingly. It's something I always do is slightly change some elements of your tactic to your opposition players. Again, it's just making those little margins that will help you massively and stuff like that. So I think we've gone on enough today with this save. Like I said, the chap's doing very well. There is obviously transfer window coming up, so you'd be needing to free up some wage budget, and then obviously look to see if you can buy in, you know, maybe a tall striker to basically win those balls from the goalkeeper, which is a core part of your tactic, or maybe look to get some fullbacks who are good with the ball, and then you can say, okay, well, you know what, let's get the keeper to roll the ball out to them, and then they can start the play off and get the ball up the pitch. The other thing as well is your attacking unit is very poor on the work rate and the stamina, and they're not very good at pressing. Now, because you've got the high line, because you play with the tempo and things like that, I think that'll be a massive improvement to you if you can add an element of the counter press and to get to win the ball high up the pitch, because a lot of your formation has attacking players already up the pitch. So if you can win the ball higher up the pitch, then it means that you're going to be creating a lot more chances and things like that. And again, as you've seen at the start, where you look at your squad overview, there is quite a few weaknesses and things you can improve on there. But you are doing really well. Obviously, you salary-wise, you're 18th in the league, I think it was. So you are massively overachieving here. But just make the most of the loans. And it's not just Holland as well. There'll be teams in other countries that you can hopefully tap up and make use of the youngsters and just get a couple more improvements into your team. But anyway, thanks for the comment on the video. Please do let me know how this save goes. I am going to do a separate video where we go through all the team instructions and what they mean, and when you should use them and not and stuff. But I thought it'd be good to have an actual save here, go into it fresh, how to approach it and everything like that. But like I said, one of the other things was your assistant manager, who's very good. I would keep him for as long as you can. A lot of times you can get staff who aren't very good. They genuinely are quite switched on, but sometimes they do get things wrong. Your team cohesion thing here is probably a large part of your success anyway. But obviously it's always good to go into this and you can see the weaknesses and stuff like this. And like I said, there is the graph as well where you go into comparison and things like that, and you can also go into statistics as well. And this gives you a little overview as well as where you're going wrong and things like that. But most of, like I said, 90% of what you already had on here, I completely agree with what you've got going on anyway. So there isn't too much to improve on here. There is a bit of recruiting to do in January, but other than that, there isn't too much to go into. But I will do a separate video very shortly for you. But yeah, good luck with the rest of your season and your save, and do let me know how you get on. But anyway, guys, if you watched this entire video, congratulations, because I've waffled on for ages. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've taken some snippets. If there's anything I've missed, then please do let me know down in the comments. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.